At the Tribulation Task Force HQ, it's time for the Remnant heroes to pick their newest recruits. With 23 candidates to choose from, only 3 of them made the cut. These 3 are Attoman, who possesses atomic-based powers, which includes flight and energy generation. That comes from the power suit he wears that was passed down to him from his grandfather. Calvary, who has a unique and unpredictable set of powers that are seemingly activated in high adrenaline situations or are activated as well by his level of faith. And Gemstar, who is powered by a gem that fell out of a portal during the battle between Raytheon and Blue Flame. If you would like the reference to that battle, you can check out our The Remnant Issue 0 review video. The only downside of these recruits is that they are grossly inexperienced, so the Remnant leaders know ahead of time that they have their work cut out for them. Fast forward to Recruitment Day, and the 3 are welcomed to the Remnant HQ with open arms. They're given their assigned living quarters and upcoming training and assessment schedule, as well as being told to make themselves feel at home, where they all share the excitement of how awesome the Remnant headquarters are. Eventually, Dr. Sonia rallies the new recruits to the training room for their first real training session and evaluation to see what is the true limit to each of their powers. And they each utterly fail all the tests, both individually and as a collective, to which the 3 reflect on their results, hoping they didn't do that bad that they didn't make the cut. With Attoman annoyed as it seems like Gem isn't taking things as seriously as she should, expressing that this is a big deal to him, because by being recruited into the Remnant, he'll be living up to his grandfather's legacy, who was a World War II hero that he inherited the suit from, and they assure him that they will work together so they will get through and become members of the Remnant, which they definitely showcased during their next training and assessment session with Dr. Sonia, who was greatly impressed when compared to the first session. At the dining hall, the trio continue to bond over their aspiration to join the Remnant, with Calvary and Gem sharing how they each got their powers. After a couple of weeks, they are summoned before the Remnant squad to hear the final verdict, which comes with encouragement and criticism for each of them. Attoman is commended for the amount of potential he exhibits in both his abilities and his attitude, but his failure to regulate his powers can make him a potential liability on the field. Gemstar is commended for her infectious enthusiasm and hard work ethic, but she lacks the necessary precision to use her gem properly. Calvary is a complete wildcat, as all attempts to catalog and quantify his abilities and its source via natural means has failed, with Dr. Sonia and the team drawing the conclusion that his powers are supernatural and are truly based on his level of faith. Now, with all that being said, Greg congratulates them and welcomes them into the Remnant officially, with Raytheon and Tech Knight informing them that they have created some modified uniforms for them that would help regulate their powers, which can be found in the living quarters, and they do look pretty good in them. But as they were showing off the new uniforms, an alert went off reporting that there are 3 ESPs causing trouble at a pro-life rally, which sounds like the perfect opportunity to let the new recruits get some action on the field, with Manowar suggesting that they send Raytheon, Thief in the Night and Salthawk out with them. When they get to Silas City, the source of the disturbance is a bunch of Robotroid androids on a mission to just cause chaos, to which the 6 quickly puts a stop to them, causing a bit of a mess in the process that, in the end, they do in fact have to clean up. However, during the fight, unbeknownst to the Remnant, one of the androids released a data sphere en route to Robotron's headquarters, who reports back to Apollyon that he has collected the genetic samples. And we end off this issue with Apollyon instructing him to send the samples to him immediately, asserting that Robotron might be useful after all, with Robotron vowing that he will soon surely find out how useful it is. And with that, let's dive into our Christian fiction judgment scale of the Remnant issue 3. For the story, I'll give it a 3.75 out of 5, which is our trademark score for stories that are a solid read and set up to be the much more to come point in the series. This issue was simply your classic new recruits join the established superhero group type of story. We have seen it time and time again, but this time it was done in the context of the Remnant universe. And in my opinion, they did the recruitment trope well. I am currently doing a rewatch binge of all the episodes of Young Justice, and I am on season 1, episode 8. And I really can't wait to see how the Last Gen story develops into that Young Justice style story, as well as how it will play out on what mission or event made the squad no longer want to be a part of the mainline Remnant group and start their own hero group. Other than the amount of restrictions placed on them, that is, which was described in the Last Gen issue. This issue sets up that intrigue for me as someone who has read and reviewed the Last Gen issue 0. Barry Rob's note on the first page of the comic said, "If you liked our 3 recruits, you are in for a treat because they will be starring in the Last Gen series. In the spirit of great teen books like New Warriors and Teen Titans, Last Gen will follow the exploits of our younger heroes as they set out to prove themselves to the Remnant." So I do look forward to see where the story goes. When it comes to artwork and creativity, I'll give it a 4 to 5, because it's a 4 to 5 on our scale when comparing comic to comic for the comics that we cover. This issue had a lot of really great panels that I liked a lot, so I can't complain there at all. But speaking of artwork and creativity, particularly creativity, 4 months ago I made a community post on the channel asking the question, based on the image alone, what individual superhero names would you give them? Also, what would you name their team? Where the image was a cropped version of the comic's cover, and I really want to touch on some of these responses as they were quite funny. Cool Rant said the Newcomes, featuring Hush Spice, Communion, and the Green Veil. Roman Napoleon said the Fancy Lads, featuring Butterfingers, Jellyfish, and Phlegmon. Gogo Nathan 4116 said Neolite with Skyflare, Dazzle, and Cryer. I think that's Cryer. Oh jeez, my English not working today. Ernest, our resident channel-wide top commenter, said Amethyst, Fireball, and the Fighting Octopus, aka the Elites. Just thought that would be funny to include in this segment. Let me know in the comments names that you would give to them as well that you think would work great with them other than the actual hero names. It's just a fun creative experiment I like to run with the characters from the comics we cover to just gauge what audience perception is, especially when they don't know the characters, to see just impressions on the stories that I cover on the channel. When it comes to theological basis, which refers to how well Christian principles, theology, and scripture is adapted in a piece of Christian fictional work, I'll give it a 3 out of 5, which is our go-to score when there aren't any theological themes to assess within a supposedly Christian themed comic book. Sometimes we forego the theological perspective category completely if the series has no theological aspects whatsoever, mostly for comics made by a professing believer but isn't necessarily a Christian comic book or endorses Christian themes. Sometimes it's just a good old superhero comic book. Lastly, my enjoyment and how likely I am to recommend it is a 4 to 5. I really enjoyed this story and do highly recommend you check it out, but it isn't on my must-read list. However, that doesn't mean to not check out the comic, as I do over-summarize and skip over a lot of dialogue and comic pages in my review videos. You only saw parts of about 12 to 15 pages from a 29-page comic book. So do be sure to check it out on your own and make your own opinions on it if you liked what you heard in the video. But overall, The Remnant issue 3 gets a 3.7 out of 5 from the Xplanations. Let me know what you think of the comic based on what we discussed in the video in the comments down below. Do you agree with me or have a different take than I do? Link to purchase the comic will be in the description. If you enjoyed the video, then why not consider leaving a like on it and subscribing for more reviews and coverage of comics made by professing believers. Hopefully this year of 2024, I am aiming to review at least one comic every Saturday of the year, excluding the 2nd and 4th Saturdays of the month, which is reserved for the Kiddushim Initiative podcast, which if you haven't, also go check out the last installment of the Kiddushim Initiative podcast. If you enjoyed the video to the point you want to check out another video on the channel, then be sure to click the card at the top right hand corner of your screen to check out the other Remnant reviews, or click the end card to check out my review of the last gen to learn more about the origins behind the Teen Titans squad to what I call the Christian Justice League.